Day in that church, surrounded by hundreds of people whose lives he had touched. Person after person got up and told stories about how Marcus had helped them, how he had believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. His wife told me something that day that I'll never forget. She said Marcus talked about me all the time, how proud he was of what I was accomplishing, how he wished he could live long enough to see all the things I was going to build. About a month after he passed, I was having the worst day. Everything was going wrong. My companies were struggling. I felt completely lost without Marcus's advice. I was sitting in my office late at night, just staring at the wall, thinking about how much I missed being able to call him. How much I missed his calm voice telling me everything would work out if I just kept doing the right thing. That's when I smelled something familiar. Pipe tobacco, the exact brand Marcus used to smoke. He was the only person I knew who smoked that particular blend. He used to light up his pipe when we had our long talks about life and business. I looked around. Nobody was there. All the windows were closed. There was no logical reason for that smell to be in my office. But it was so strong, so real. And with that smell came this feeling of peace. Like Marcus was telling me everything was going to be okay. Like he was still there, still watching out for me. I found myself talking out loud. Marcus, if that's you, I really need your help right now. I don't know what to do. The smell lasted for about 10 minutes. And during those 10 minutes, I felt this clarity I hadn't felt since he died. I knew exactly what decisions to make, exactly how to handle the problems I was facing. But more than that, I remembered his lessons about treating people with respect, about making decisions based on what's right, not just what's profitable, about remembering that behind every business problem are real people with real lives. The next day, I followed what felt like his guidance, and everything worked out better than I could have hoped. But more importantly, I handled it in a way that honored the values he had taught me. Now, you might say that was just my imagination, my brain creating what I needed to feel better. But here's the thing. The advice I felt like I was getting wasn't anything I would have thought of on my own. It was exactly the kind of wisdom Marcus used to give me. Practical, but with this deep understanding of human nature. That experience made me start paying attention to other things I used to dismiss as coincidence. Like how my mother always calls me right when I'm thinking about her, not when I call her, but when I'm sitting somewhere missing her, feeling overwhelmed by everything on my plate, the phone rings and it's her. She says she just felt like she needed to check on me. My mother has this incredible intuition. She always has. But it's gotten stronger as she's gotten older. She'll call me and say, I was praying for you this morning and felt like something was bothering you. And she's always right. Sometimes she'll tell me things like, I had a dream about your grandmother last night. She wanted me to remind you to call your brother. And when I call my brother, it turns out he was going through something difficult and really needed to talk. Or how every time I'm struggling with a big decision, I'll hear a song on the radio that my father used to love, a song that somehow relates to exactly what I'm going through. It's like those songs are reminding me of the lessons he gave me that I was too young and stubborn to appreciate at the time. These things happen too often to be random. It's like the people I love are still connected to my life in ways I can't explain. But the biggest change in my thinking came when my neighbor's wife was dying. Her name was Eleanor. She was 84 years old and had been sick for months. Eleanor was one of those people who made everyone around her feel special. She remembered everyone's birthday. She knew all the neighborhood kids by name. When someone was going through a tough time, she would show up with a homemade pie and stay to listen. I didn't know Eleanor as well as I should have. I was always too busy, always traveling. But every time I came home, she would wave from her garden and ask how I was doing. Really ask, like she genuinely cared about the answer. The day before she died, her husband knocked on my door. Tom was crying. He said Eleanor had been asking about me all morning, which surprised me because we had barely spoken over the years. He said she had been unconscious for most of the past week, but that morning she woke up completely alert and kept saying she needed to talk to me before it was too late. When I walked into her room, Eleanor looked right at me with these bright, clear eyes. She hadn't been lucid in weeks, according to Tom. She took my hand and said, Elon, I wanted to tell you something before I go. Your father is proud of you. He knows you think he was disappointed in your choices, but he wasn't. He's been watching you build all these companies, and he understands now why you had to leave South Africa. He sees how you're trying to help people, even when they don't understand your methods. I started crying right there. My father had died years earlier, and we had never resolved our relationship. He never understood why I left home to pursue my dreams. He thought I was being foolish, chasing fantasies instead of building a stable, traditional life. I carried that guilt for years. The weight of thinking he died, disappointed in me, thinking he never got to see that my crazy ideas actually worked out. But Eleanor couldn't have known any of this. I had never talked to her about my father, about my guilt, about how I worried that he died thinking I was just another dreamer who would never amount to anything. She squeezed my hand tighter and said, "He also wants you to know that he's sorry. He was scared for you, that's why he was so hard on you. He didn't want you to get hurt, chasing dreams that seemed impossible. But he sees now that those impossible dreams were exactly what the world needed." Then she smiled and said, "He's not the only one watching over you, you know. You have a lot of people who love you on the other side. They're all so proud of what you're doing." She passed away that night, but what she told me gave me a peace I hadn't felt since my father died, like he had found a way to send me a message through her. Like all those years of carrying guilt and regret had been unnecessary. After that experience, I started looking at death completely differently. Maybe it's not an ending. Maybe it's just a transition to something else. Something where the people we love can still reach us when we need them most. I started noticing more things, like how sometimes when I'm facing a really difficult decision, I'll get this sudden clarity that doesn't feel like it's coming from my own thinking. It feels like wisdom from someone who has lived longer and seen more than I have. Or how when I'm feeling lonely or discouraged, I'll suddenly feel surrounded by love. Not in a vague way, but like there are specific people who care about me standing right there beside me, even though I can't see them. I think about all the times in my life when things worked out in ways that seemed impossible, when solutions appeared just when I needed them, when the right people showed up at exactly the right time, like when I was trying to start my first company and had no money and no connections, and this investor called me out of nowhere. He said he had heard about what I was doing through a friend of a friend and wanted to help. Or when I was going through my divorce and felt like I was falling apart, and my assistant mentioned that her grandmother, who I had never met, had been praying for me every day. This 90-year-old woman, who didn't even know me, was asking God to give me strength. This has changed how I think about my own mistakes and regrets. All those things I wish I had said to people before they died. All those relationships I wish I had handled better. Like my grandfather, who taught me about perseverance, but died before I could show him what I accomplished with the lessons he gave me. Or my first business partner, who believed in me when no one else would, but who I had a falling out with before he passed away. If consciousness continues after death, then maybe it's not too late for any of that. Maybe the people I hurt know I'm sorry. Maybe the people I love know how much they meant to me, even if I never found the right words while they were alive. Maybe my grandfather can see that the stubbornness he taught me helped me keep going when everyone said my ideas were impossible. Maybe my business partner understands that our disagreement was just about strategy, not about the friendship and respect I had for him. And it's changed how I think about the people in my life right now. If love continues beyond death, then every moment with the people I care about matters more than I thought. Every conversation with my children is precious because it's building a relationship that might last forever. Every phone call with my mother is an opportunity to show her how much I appreciate everything she did to raise me. Every friendship is a chance to create love that death can't destroy. I used to be afraid of death, afraid of everything just ending, of all the relationships and experiences and love just disappearing into nothing. But now I think death might be more like moving to a different country. You can't visit the old place anymore, but you're still you. You still remember everyone you loved. You still care about them. You still want good things for them. And maybe, if you love someone enough, you find ways to let them know you're okay, that you're still there in ways they might not expect, through a smell that reminds them of you, through other people who deliver messages, through moments of clarity when they need guidance. I know some people think this is wishful thinking, that I'm just trying to make myself feel better about losing people I care about. But I don't think it's about comfort. I think it's about love, about the possibility that love is stronger than anything else in the universe, stronger than time, stronger than distance, stronger than death. If love is real, and I know it is, because I feel it every day, then why would it stop being real just because someone's body stops working? The love I feel for my children doesn't depend on me having a physical body. It comes from somewhere deeper than that. If I died tomorrow, that love wouldn't disappear. It would still exist, even if I couldn't express it in the same ways. Maybe heaven isn't a place with clouds and angels. Maybe it's just love continuing in a different form. Maybe it's consciousness freed from the limitations of physical bodies. Maybe it's where we finally get to love each other perfectly, without fear or misunderstanding, or all the barriers that physical existence creates. This gives me hope about everything. Hope that the people I've lost are still out there loving me. Hope that when my time comes, I'll see them again. Hope that nothing we build together through love is ever really lost. It makes every day more precious because I might be preparing for something incredible. Something where all the love I've given and received becomes part of something eternal. And it makes me want to live better while I'm here. To love more deeply, to forgive more easily, to appreciate the time I have with people instead of taking it for granted. Because if heaven is real, and I believe it is, then this life is just the beginning of the story. The relationships we build here, the love we share, the kindness we show to each other, it all continues in ways we can't imagine yet. And that changes how I approach every single day. When I wake up in the morning, I don't just think about my schedule or my goals, I think about the people I'm going to interact with, the conversations I'm going to have, the chances I'll get to show love or kindness, because maybe those moments matter more than anything else I could accomplish. Maybe being patient with someone who's having a bad day is more important than any business deal I could close. Maybe taking time to really listen when someone needs to talk is more valuable than any meeting I could attend. I think about my children differently now too. When they were younger, I was so focused on teaching them to be successful, to be strong, to achieve their goals, and those things are still important. But now I realize that the most important thing I can teach them is how to love well, how to treat people with kindness even when it's difficult, how to forgive people who hurt them, how to see the good in others even when it's not obvious. Because if consciousness continues after death, those are the skills that will matter most. I want them to know that every person they meet is fighting battles they can't see, that everyone deserves compassion, that love is always the right choice, even when it's not the easy choice. And I want them to understand that the people we lose don't really leave us, they just change form. They become memories that guide us, wisdom that helps us make better decisions, love that continues to flow through us to others. When my time comes to die, I want to know that I've built something that will last. Not just companies or inventions, but relationships, love, a legacy of treating people well and making the world a little bit kinder. Because maybe that's what heaven is about. Maybe it's about the love we've created and shared coming back to us in ways we never expected. Maybe all the kindness we've shown returns to us multiplied. Maybe every person we've helped along the way is there to welcome us home. If that's true, then every day is a chance to invest in eternity. Every act of love is building something that death can't touch. Every moment of compassion is creating something that will last forever. This perspective has changed how I handle difficult people too. You know those people who seem impossible to deal with? The ones who are angry or rude or just plain mean? I used to get frustrated with them. I used to think they were just choosing to be difficult. But now I wonder what pain they're carrying, what losses they've experienced, what disappointments have made them so hard to be around. Maybe that angry person at the store just lost someone they loved. Maybe that rude neighbor is dealing with health problems they haven't told anyone about. Maybe that difficult colleague is struggling with family issues that are breaking their heart. And if that's true, then my response to them matters more than I thought. Maybe showing them patience when they don't deserve it is exactly what their soul needs. Maybe being kind to someone who's being cruel is how love wins over pain. I think about how Marcus used to handle people like that. He never got angry back. He would just look at them with these compassionate eyes and say something like, "You seem like you're having a really tough day. Is there anything I can do to help?" Most of the time, that simple kindness would completely change the interaction. The angry person would soften. Sometimes they'd even apologize and tell him what was really bothering them. Marcus understood something I'm just learning now. That hurt people, but loved people, love people. And sometimes all it takes is one person showing genuine care to break the cycle. So now when someone is difficult with me, I try to remember that they might be fighting a battle I can't see. I try to respond with the kind of love that Marcus showed me. The kind of love that sees past the surface behavior to the pain underneath. Because if heaven is real, and if love continues after death, then maybe every moment of kindness I show to a difficult person is actually showing kindness to someone who's grieving, someone who's scared, someone who just needs to know that they matter to somebody. And maybe that kindness doesn't just help them in that moment. Maybe it plants a seed that grows into something beautiful later. Maybe it reminds them that love still exists in the world, even when everything else feels dark. I've started thinking about forgiveness differently too. There are people in my life who have hurt me deeply, people who betrayed my trust or said things that cut right to my heart. For years, I carried anger toward them. October is the time when the seasons change. The air cools down, the nights grow longer, and many of us begin to think about heating our homes. But this year, the cost of energy is higher than ever before. Heating oil, natural gas, electricity, all of it is more expensive. Utility companies are struggling with aging equipment and higher demand. Power grids that are already stretched thin may face outages when the first cold waves arrive. Imagine sitting in your home on a chilly October night and the lights go out, the heater stops. You call the company, but the line is busy. You wait, and no one comes. That is the reality many families may face this October. Then there is food. All year long, farmers have been struggling with unpredictable weather and rising costs. Truckers are fewer in number. Grocery stores have been quietly fighting to keep their shelves full. But October is when the stress builds. Stores begin ordering more to prepare for the holiday season, and when they cannot get enough, shortages show up. You may walk into your regular store and find your favorite bread missing. You may notice the price of milk or eggs has jumped again. You may see limits placed on how much of one item you can buy. It does not happen everywhere at the same time, but when you add it up, you begin to realize the simple act of buying groceries is not as easy as it once was. Healthcare is another storm waiting to break. October is when insurance companies finalize their plans for the new year. Premiums rise, coverage shrinks. Doctors you have seen for years suddenly do not take your plan anymore. At the same time, hospitals are short on nurses, short on equipment, short on patients. When the flu season starts and more people need care, the system bends under the weight. You may try to call your doctor and find there are no appointments for weeks. You may need a prescription filled and discover the pharmacy cannot get it in stock. For people who are older, who depend on medicine and regular care, this is not a small inconvenience, it can be life-changing. And what about safety? Many communities across America are facing budget cuts and staff shortages. Police departments, fire stations, emergency services, they are all under pressure. When you call for help, you may not get it as quickly as you used to. In some areas, crime has been rising quietly, little by little, and October is the time when those trends become impossible to ignore. Reports of theft, break-ins, and violence make their way into the local news. Neighbors whisper about things that did not used to happen on their street. You lock your doors earlier. You keep your lights on longer, and you realize that the safety you took for granted feels less certain. But perhaps the biggest change of all is not in systems or services, but in people. Communities are changing. Families are changing. Many of the younger generation are living very different lives. They are moving away, spending more time online, less time with their neighbors, less time with family. Older folks feel left behind. The connections that once held neighborhoods together are weaker. And in October, when the systems begin to fail, when the power goes out, when the grocery shelves are thin, when the doctor's office is too busy, the truth becomes clear. The people you can really count on are not some distant company or government office. It is your neighbors, the ones you talk to, the ones you share with, the ones who will check on you when things go wrong. October is not about the end of the world. It is about the end of an illusion. The illusion that everything will always be the same, that services will always be available, that stores will always be stocked, that help will always arrive quickly. The truth is, things are already changing. October is simply the month when many Americans will notice. So what should you do? Do not panic. Do not run to the store and try to buy everything at once. That only makes things worse. Instead, prepare quietly, calmly, wisely. Fill your prescriptions. Stock up on a little extra food, the kind that keeps for a while. Keep some candles, flashlights, and batteries ready in case the power goes out. Set aside a little cash in case the banks have problems. And most importantly, reconnect with your community. Know your neighbors, talk to them, share phone numbers, because when systems fail, people are the backup plan. Think about it this way. If your car breaks down, you probably have a plan for how to get around until it is fixed. If the power goes out, you probably have a flashlight somewhere in the house. Now apply that same thinking to your health, your money, your food, your safety, your relationships. Ask yourself, what would I do if things did not work the way they usually do? If you can answer that question now, you will be far less anxious later. I am not saying all of this to frighten you. I am saying it because I believe in being ready. Being prepared does not mean expecting the worst. It means being smart enough to see the signs and act before everyone else wakes up to the problem. October is not about panic. It is about awareness. It is about planning. It is about taking care of yourself and the people you love. Many will ignore these warnings. They will keep living as if nothing is changing. And when the shelves are empty, when the lights go out, when the doctor cannot see them, when the police do not arrive on time, they will be caught off guard. But not you. You have the chance to see it coming, to prepare while there is still time, to be one of the few who will not be surprised when October shows its true face. So, remember, October is not just another month. It is the month when small cracks become clear, the month when the illusions fall away, the month when you see what is really solid in your life and what is not. Use these days wisely. Prepare, plan, connect, and stay aware. Because when October is over, you will either be one of the people who says, I never saw this coming, or one of the people who says, I was ready. And the choice is yours. Maybe you are wondering why I'm saying all of this now, why October and not November or December or some other time. The answer is simple. October is the doorway. It is the moment when summer finally lets go, when the light changes, when the mood shifts. For generations, people have felt it, even if they did not put it into words. October is the month when the year begins to reveal its true story. Think about how life has felt these past few years. Prices rising, promises made by officials but never kept, news changing from one crisis to the next so quickly you can barely keep track. You probably know someone who says, I just stopped watching the news. It is too much. And yet, even if you turn off the television, even if you stop reading the papers, you feel it in your own life. Groceries are more expensive. Bills are higher. Services are slower. Things you counted on are not as reliable as before. This October will not be remembered for one single event. It will be remembered for the way small events begin to pile up. You will hear about more people leaving their jobs. You will see more help-wanted signs in store windows. You will notice that simple repairs take longer and cost more. You will see familiar businesses close down because they cannot keep up. And for older folks, for people who lived through times when stability was normal, it will feel strange, unsettling, almost like watching the ground shift slowly under your feet. Let me tell you what I think is the most dangerous thing of all. It is not rising prices, not broken systems, not even crime. It is the feeling of helplessness that spreads when people realize the old ways are not coming back. People who once felt secure begin to doubt. People who once felt calm begin to worry. And when fear spreads, it changes how everyone behaves. They shop differently, they talk differently, they trust less. That quiet shift, more than anything else, is what October brings. I have met many older Americans who tell me the same thing. They say, life used to feel steadier. You knew what to expect. You knew the people around you. Things changed slowly, not overnight. They are right, but now the pace has picked up. Small cracks appear faster, promises break sooner, and October is when that acceleration becomes impossible to ignore. You may notice it first in conversations. A neighbor mentions that their heating bill has doubled. A friend complains that her prescription was delayed again. Someone at church talks about how their grandson cannot find stable work. These are not isolated complaints. They are signals, warnings, pieces of a larger puzzle. If you listen closely this October, you will hear them everywhere. Then, there is the quiet stress of money. Many retirees depend on fixed incomes, pensions, Social Security, maybe some savings. But when prices rise, when services cost more, when fees creep in, that fixed income does not stretch as far as it used to. Some people will cut back on travel, on small pleasures, on gifts for grandchildren. Others will dip into savings they hope to preserve. And as the months grow colder, the choice becomes harder. Spend more on heating or spend more on food? That question, painful as it sounds, will sit heavy in October. There is also something deeper happening, a shift in trust. For decades, people trusted institutions. The bank would hold your money, the store would stock what you needed, the doctor would see you when you were sick, the government would respond in a crisis. But each of those pillars has shown cracks. Banks delay payments, stores run short, doctors are booked for weeks. Governments argue instead of acting. And when those pillars weaken, people begin to ask, who can I really count on? The answer, though many do not want to admit it, is simple. You can count on yourself, and you can count on the people close to you. That is why October is not just a warning about problems. It is also a reminder about solutions. Do not wait for someone far away to fix things. Look closer. Look to your family, your neighbors, your community. I know this is not easy. Many older Americans feel forgotten. They see the younger generation rushing into a digital world they barely understand. They feel their knowledge and experience are not valued anymore. But I want to tell you something important. Your experience matters now more than ever. You grew up in a world where self-reliance was necessary, where neighbors borrowed sugar, shared meals, and looked after each other's kids. That spirit is exactly what October requires. You do not need to solve every problem. You just need to remember what you already know. Cook at home instead of depending on takeout. Keep a small supply of what you use most often. Check in on the people around you. Share advice, share resources, share time. These may sound like small things, but they make a difference when larger systems begin to stumble. October is not the end of anything, but it is the test. It is the time when you begin to see clearly what can be trusted and what cannot. And those who prepare quietly, steadily, calmly, will pass that test. They will not be shaken when others panic. They will not feel lost when others are confused. They will stand on steady ground because they took the warning seriously. I know some of you may still doubt. You may be thinking, every year someone says things will get worse, and yet life goes on. And yes, life does go on. But ask yourself, does it go on the same way it used to? Do you feel the same sense of stability you felt 10 or 20 years ago? Or do you notice the little changes, the little cuts, the little pressures building? That is why October matters. Because it is not about a single day of disaster. It is about the slow build, the steady wait, the feeling that ordinary life takes more effort than it should. So what do you do with this knowledge? You do not hide, you do not despair, you do not give up, you prepare, you plan, you connect. You use October as a chance to get ahead. Because once November and December come, it will be harder. The cold will be deeper, the prices will be higher, the systems will be weaker. October is the window, the chance, the moment when you still have time. Mark my words. When the year is over and people look back, they will not remember October as just another month. They will remember it as the month that revealed the truth. And when that moment comes, I want you to be ready, steady, calm, and unshaken. Let me tell you a story. A few weeks ago, I spoke with a woman in her 70s who lives not far from one of my factories. Her name is Margaret. She is the kind of person who has worked hard her whole life, raised children, cared for her neighbors, and never asked for much in return. But she told me something that struck me. She said, "Elon, I used to feel like I could handle whatever life threw at me. But lately, it feels like the ground is shifting under my feet. She explained how last winter her heating bill doubled, even though she kept the thermostat lower than ever before. She told me how the grocery store in her town no longer stocks some of the foods she has bought for decades. And the worst part? Her doctor of more than 30 years retired, and now she waits months just to see a new one who barely knows her name. Margaret is not someone who complains easily. She is proud, resilient, and deeply rooted in her community. But she said something I will never forget. It is not just one thing, Elon. It is everything happening at once. That is the reality October is bringing. Rising costs, fewer services, and changes in our communities that pile up until even the strongest among us feel the weight. Margaret told me she sometimes feels like she is walking through a familiar town that no longer feels familiar. The same streets, the same houses, but with a sense that things are not as steady as they used to be. I share her story because I know many of you have felt the same. Maybe you have noticed that your neighborhood pharmacy is closing earlier, or that the police take longer to respond to a call, or that friends and family are moving farther away just to make ends meet. Each of these on their own might not shake you, but when they all happen together, they change the rhythm of daily life. But here's what impressed me most about Margaret. Even though she felt the pressure of these changes, she was not giving in to fear. She told me she had started meeting with a few of her neighbors every week. They share updates, check in on one another, and even trade small supplies when the stores come up short. I cannot control the prices in the store, she said, but I can make sure no one on my street goes hungry. That, right there, is the lesson of October. It is not about waiting for someone else to fix things. It is about preparing ourselves, leaning on each other, and finding strength in community. Margaret may not have millions of dollars or a team of experts at her side, but she has something far more powerful, a willingness to face reality and adapt. I want you to think about Margaret the next time you feel overwhelmed by the news or by the rising cost of living. Remember that strength does not come from pretending problems are not real. It comes from seeing them clearly and then deciding to act with courage and calm. October will be a month that tests this kind of strength. But like Margaret, you can choose to meet it with steady eyes and a steady heart. Prepare a little, reach out to people you trust, and remind yourself that you are